'Tis the season to be jolly, and what brings joy more than plastic miniatures from a rather large man in a red costume? Well, nothing in my opinion, but that conclusion would result in a very short video, so let's try this from a different angle. My most popular video to date has been the Land Raider video, and since it's Christmas, why not combine these two unlikely bedfellows? No, not that way. I'm talking about making another Land Raider from Gingerbread. You've heard of the Gingerbread house, but what about a Gingerbread Land Raider? I can't recall that being done before, so let's be a pioneer of Warhammer 40,000 in the medium of baked goods and see if we can't make a friend for this Land Raider. Hell, with that and the 30k one I could have a full Proteus squadron, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now, I'd be lying if I said I was a competent baker, but you know who is? That's right, the wonderful Mrs. Miniscape. You may have seen some of her baked delights as community posts on the channel, but in case you missed them, here's a quick montage. So Mrs. Miniscape has helped me choose a recipe for gingerbread, and here it is. 375 grams of plain flour, 1 tisp of bicarbonate of soda.
That's teaspoon.
Oh, right. 3 tisp of ground ginger.
Teaspoon!
Sorry, I know. 120 grams of chilled unsalted butter, cubed. 175 grams of soft light brown sugar. 100 grams of golden syrup. And 1 egg. And that makes 15 gingerbread mans with 30 mins of prep time. Apparently, they are good for 2 weeks, not that the gingerbread will last that long without being eaten in my house. We decided to double the recipe, since we're making a tank, not gingermans. I could have calculated the quantities, but that would be more effort, and who's going to complain about excess gingerbread, eh? The plan was to make a few decent-sized slabs to cut the pieces from, and then assemble the Land Raider from said pieces. So with the ingredients to hand, and my helpers at the ready, we began by weighing the plain flour, the ginger, and the bicarbonate of soda, and throwing all that into a bowl. Then we cubed the butter and rubbed it into the flour until we made something like breadcrumbs. Next, we weighed the sugar, and in that went, and the eggs too, and the golden syrup. And since we like to play on hard mode, the beating was done with a wooden spoon rather than with a blender. What would the tech priests do after all? I reckon they would do it by hand. Once the mixture was a smooth dough, we slapped it on a floured table and kneaded it for a few minutes. Finally, it was all rolled out until it was half a centimetre thick, or 0.19685 inches if you prefer those units. Transferred to trays, lined with parchment paper, and baked for about 10 minutes at 170 degrees Celsius, or 797.67 Rankins. With the gingerbread baked, it was time for the fun to begin. Now, I'm not trying to make a perfect replica of the Land Raider here. That would be very silly. A close, tasty approximation is enough. So I made a rough paper template to place over the gingerbread while I cut it. I decided to do this as soon as the gingerbread emerged from the oven, because I wasn't sure how hard it would go when left to cool. Therefore, cutting whilst malleable seemed a wise thing to do. I would later discover that this wouldn't have mattered at all, but never mind. I chose to cut out 4 of these side panels for the tracks, along with slightly smaller shapes like it, to give the model some volume.
Why is it a model now? Don't tell me you're going to play games with it.
Force of habit, Mrs. Miniscape, and I'm not sure what else I would call it. Anyway, I also had a template for the central body of the vehicle, but when it came to the tracks, I decided to eyeball it. I wasn't planning to make individual links anyway. I had a few details in mind, such as the sponsons and a hatch on top of the tank, so I could cut out some other lengths of gingerbread just in case. Using a measuring spoon, I cut out some circles, one in case I decided I wanted a top hatch, and two to cut in half and act as the sponsons. And there's all the parts, cooling on these wire racks. And that was the end of the first day. I had other things to do, which did not involve ginger or bread, so I decided to do the rest the following day. The following day came as days do, and the plan was to use this icing to hold the thing together. It's not my typical adhesive, but then again, this is not a typical model. I started by sticking together two track sides with icing. Lying them flat would give me the stability on which to build the next part. I say stability because... well, never mind. You'll find out later. I took the parts needed to make the main body and lined them up one at a time on the track sides. During this process, I used the Land Raider model as a guide. With these parts in place, it seemed to be going well, but what you may not get from this footage is that the gingerbread was very cakey and not as rigid as I had envisioned it would be. The possibility of the tank collapsing under its own weight was slowly becoming a reality. But I didn't fancy a second round of baking with another recipe to yield firmer gingerbread, so this would have to do. Never mind, that's a lesson for next year. My stopgap solution was to place the bottom as the middle section so it rested on one of the many excess pieces of gingerbread I had. Also, I chose to fill in the void in the centre with more gingerbread, which I should have planned for earlier. Anyway, I took the other track side and stuck it to the middle section. Before standing it up, I took the bottom track section and iced it in place. The rest of the model was placed on here, and I held my breath, waiting to see if it would hold. And it did. Whew. Finding the other track sections, I carefully iced these and placed them around the track sides. The ones susceptible to gravity I braced by placing spare gingerbread beneath them. It was hard not to eat this as I was going along, and in fact, on that front I failed several times. Never mind. With the tracks done, it was time to add the other side panels, but I reckoned it would be easier to add the weapons to each side and then slap the whole thing on. For the weapons, I chose chocolate fingers. Twin-linked, heavy chocolate fingers. I cut short ones for the heavy bolters, and longer ones for the las cannons. I cut the gingerbread circles in half, and iced these and the fingers so they would stick to the side pieces thusly. However, I wasn't confident that these would stay on without bracing, so I took a thin slice of gingerbread and placed it underneath to support the weight, much like I did with the middle section. And at some point, I stuck this hatch on the top, but I added no more, since I didn't want the thing to be top-heavy. Now please, I know some of you are itching to write comments telling me how to do this better, and you know what? In the spirit of goodwill, go ahead, right away, but I doubt I will be making another one of these, so I'll be definitely taking any advice you give me with a pinch of salt, or 0.01058222 ounces of salt, if you're that way inclined. And, with a steady hand and a prayer, it looks like it's done. A gingerbread Land Raider with twin-linked chocolate fingers, held together with lots of love and icing. It's remarkably close in size to the other model I have. In fact, after a quick paint job, it looks very similar, I think. Ah, joke's on you people. That's the real one. No, I won't be painting this one. Because 1, it collapsed 10 minutes after this footage, and 2, it was just so damn tasty. You might ask where the dozer blade is, and I will tell you, in your imagination, mate. That was one detail I couldn't be done with. That, and several others. This was a fun festive project, one that demands a song, so hang on for that. I've already had recommendations for other edible 40k vehicles, such as the Breadnought, the Predstator, and maybe the Lamb Raider, but we'll see. Now, please do give it up for Mrs. Minescape, without whom this project would not have been possible. Hopefully I can repay her in ad revenue, or at least pay off the cost of the ingredients. She's not complaining though. She's enjoyed helping to eat the thing. Some tasty Land Raider.
That's some tasty Land Raider.
Absolutely decimated it. Rip Land Raider. And anyway, thank you for watching this long. The only thing left is to leave you with a festive tune. Ready? 2, 3, 4. Land Raider, gingerbread, cubed butter, raider of land, eggs and flour, raider of land, brown sugar, raider of land, golden syrup, raider of land, ground ginger, raider of land, chocolate fingers, raider of land. Da 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 da. The gingerbread Land Raider is made of gingerbread. Land Raider, raider of land. Land Raider, raider of land. Merry Christmas, everyone. Take care, and thanks for watching.